I lost my sight at the age of 6 due to an intolerance to medication that were actually even prescribed to me by the doctor. It started off with a bout of asthma, and then my parents brought me to a clinic doctor who prescribed 4 medicine. And then 12 days later on Christmas, I started vomiting and then had very high fever. Blisters started to cover my body. At first, the doctors were baffled. It took them 3 days just to figure out what was going on, and they couldn't do anything during that time. And overnight, the skin condition from blisters worsened to something like 3rd-degree burns. Even my eyes started to bleed because I had constant 42-degree fever. I couldn't open my eyes. It was fused shut after it started bleeding. I was photosensitive for a few weeks. I could still see a bit. Then on March 6, 1986, I just woke up and I couldn't see anymore. So that was almost 23 years ago now. My father at that time was working for the geophysics department of the Weather Bureau. He had been there for 23 years. When I lost my sight, it was a tragedy for the family, and they weren't sure what to do, but it was clear that I needed extra attention. My father decided to opt for early retirement so that he could focus his attention on helping me adjust to my new condition as a blind person. For the first 2 years of my blindness, he was just at home. What my parents did was to help me accept my blindness, although it was also difficult for them. They sat down with my brothers. I have 3 older brothers, and they spoke to them and said, you know, the condition is different now for your sister. She's blind, but we can't let her down. We have to make sure that she still feels that she's part of this family. She's not different. I remember this particularly. My parents knew I loved reading books when I could still see. I was photosensitive and was in a dark room. What my parents and my brothers took turns to do was to read to me by candlelight. I also remember my brothers, they knew that it was time for my favorite cartoon shows. And then without being asked, they will just start describing to me whatever was going on TV. Of course, it wasn't as easy as that. After the first 2 years, and I was already feeling strong enough, so I started studying in mainstream schools. I had the choice then to study at a special education school for the blind. When I was given that choice, I wanted to be in a regular class. After the first grading period, they announced the top 10 students. And to everyone's surprise, including my own, I was number 1 in the regular classes. So there were those who were saying, oh, it's really inspiring, a blind girl achieving despite her disability. But then there were those who were saying, baka nakachamba lang or naawa yung teacher, you know, it's just a matter of luck. They can't keep this farce up. So I was really disappointed about that, because I couldn't understand why people could not see past the disability. It's like they were saying, she's blind and this is all that she'll ever amount to. If she does better than that, then there's something fishy, there's something wrong, there's something specially adjusted to allow this to happen. And I went home crying about it. And my parents were saying, well, you can't expect people to understand how it is, what it's like to be a blind person. And it's up to you to show them that they're wrong. Elementary school, in college at the Ateneo, I never asked for exemptions. Funny story was when I was at the Ateneo, all of the slots for different PE classes where I could perform the activities, the required activities, had already been taken. And the only class that was open was fencing. And I said, okay, if that's the only class that's open, I'm not going to complain. And I lined up for fencing. And it was the professors who said, oh, no, you might kill somebody. We can just exempt you. And I said, no, I don't want that. There were even professors would say, you can take the exam home and just, ask somebody to read it to you. And I said, no, I don't want that, because my classmates would see that I'm being treated differently. And if I perform well in that test, they would say, oh, that's because she was given special treatment. I didn't want that. The results came out, but before they were posted, the Ateneo called me up and I was asked to go to the Office of Admission and Aid. They said they wanted to talk to me. And when I arrived there, they said, you passed the asset, you got really high scores, and we're sure that because of this, you'll also be getting really high scores with the other entrance exams you've taken. And before other universities ask you to enroll, what we want to do is to ask you to enroll in the Ateneo. And more than that, we want you to major in BS Mathematics. To consider a university, they probably don't know how to teach a blind person yet, well, at least the proper way of doing it. And now they're asking me to major in a field that's even considered difficult by sighted people. The Ateneo has bright students. I mean, what's so difficult about that? Teaching bright and gifted children. They're already very good. What the real challenge is how to teach a person with disability and see beyond that handicap and help them develop their abilities to the fullest extent possible. That's even more challenging. And I felt that the Ateneo was ready for that, and I could help them deal with that. Thinking of graduating with honors or anything like that. I just wanted to graduate with good grades, finish the course that I was majoring in, and that was it. To prove to myself, to the blindness community, and to the rest of society that there was a blind student here who graduated with good grades, didn't ask for exemptions from. Then in 2001, I graduated with the highest Latin honors summa cum laude in mathematics, was also class valedictorian, and also got other awards as outstanding scholar. Throughout my education, and even now when I'm working, I make it a point to make sure people understand I'm an ordinary person. I may have special needs. I may do things differently. You don't have to treat me so differently that will diminish the value of whatever achievement I'm able to obtain. And it's important that people understand this is not just me, this is not just Roselle Ambubuyog who's doing that. It's something that other blind people can do. I graduated from college and even pursued a master's degree in electoral science. My goal was to work for a company, for an industry that would help those who were underprivileged, who were already at a disadvantage. And I got introduced to the field of access technology and started working for companies that made screen reading and screen magnification software that enabled the blind and the partially sighted to use a computer, to use a cell phone. While I'm establishing my career in the access technology industry, I want to make sure that not only am I contributing in designing products that empower the blind and the partially sighted, but I'm also making sure that there are versions of these applications that are affordable or free to people who can't really afford the expensive technology. I suppose that really sums up what my story has been so far. During the Ateneo commencement exercise, I was the one who gave the valedictory address. And my theme then, the message I really wanted to put across then was, we love the light because it shows us the way, but we must also learn to love the darkness because it shows us the stars.
I'm going story. I love, I bleed, learn, laugh, I believe. I'll take my chances, I am you. I tell you this story, I give you my story, so I can live.